Welcome to Gentle Yin and Restorative Yoga. My name is Michelle Chua. For this class, you'll want to have quite a few props so that you have more options to place your body comfortably in postures that will hold for a few minutes at a time. So grab a couple of yoga blocks, and if you don't have them, grab something that can be used as blocks. They could be pillows. And then you'll want another pillow, a blanket or beach towel. And let's begin lying down on our backs. Actually, I'm going to move this aside. If you've got any tension in your lower back, you may want to take one of your pillows and place it across your mat so that you can land the backs of your knees on top of it, supporting a light bend in your knees as you let your feet splay apart, wider than hips distance. Then come all the way down onto your back. Shift around as you may need to comfortably draw your shoulder heads down towards the floor and away from your neck. It may be helpful to turn your palms to face up to open up your chest. And gently turn your head side to side, up and down, any direction you may need to help relax your neck, relax your jaw. And if you feel comfortable, close your eyes and let your body just be still. Yesterday we began talking about what's called mind traps, 7 mind traps. So each day we're highlighting one of them. So mind traps is a term in a mindfulness-based stress reduction workbook written by Bob Stahl and Alicia Goldstein, LA-based therapists. And they are common mental patterns, negative feedback loops or ruts that exacerbate stress, pain, and mental and emotional suffering. If you'll recall that in the Yoga Sutras, yoga is defined as the calming of the fluctuations of the mind. And some of those fluctuations include mental patterns like these mind traps. So today we highlight the second, which is negative self-talk, often labeled as the inner critic voice. You know, the one that might say, oh, I can't do this, or I'll never get this right, or no one will ever want to be with me after a breakup. It's that self-criticizing voice. And it can perpetuate a feeling of shame, insecurity, self-doubt, and intense self-criticism can lead to fear and procrastination, among many other things. So, how to counteract negative self-talk? Well, we can learn to treat thoughts as mental events. Simply observing this thought and not having to believe everything that you think. And we can cultivate loving kindness and compassion for ourselves through practices like metta, which means loving kindness, meditation. We'll do a little bit of that at the end of this physical practice. And another way to counteract negative self-talk is through positive affirmations that you write and say to yourself, cultivating the feeling tone of them, the strong belief of them, not just saying the words, but imprinting the pattern of thought these affirmations start. So as you lie here now, feeling into your own physical body, observing whatever sensations may be informing you of what your body may need. Feeling into your mental states, your emotional and energetic state. I invite you to think about one quality that you could gift to yourself, whether it be balance, acceptance, loving kindness, clarity, something specific that you could use right now. In yoga philosophy, we believe that the source resides within and within all of us, that wellspring of well-being. So gifting yourself this quality, I invite you to phrase your affirmation like this: I am blank. Fill in the blank with that quality. I am peace. I am acceptance. I am love. I'm grounded. I'm balanced. Doesn't have to make grammatical sense, but feel the tone of that affirmation. And even I invite you to say it out loud to yourself at least 3 times. And anytime you may need to re-anchor your mind here in the body, cultivating this feeling tone, feel free to repeat this positive affirmation, mentally or out loud. And now let's start to dive into longer breaths. Inhaling through your nose, feel where in your body it expands. And then exhaling through your mouth, let out any sound that may want to come out. Couple more long exhalations through your mouth, beginning to cultivate diaphragmatic breathing. Full use of your lungs, breathing into your belly, the back of your torso, and perhaps even visualizing breathing into your whole body from head to toe. Today's physical practice, I'm going to include many of my favorite go-to postures after running on the trails or after hiking or after going on a long walk. But before we start to move into those more stretchy poses, we're going to warm up the body through some gentle movement. So now I invite you to close your lips, and if you're able to, just breathe through your nose, equally sustaining your breath in and out, while softly narrowing the back of your throat so that you're inviting a faint, whispering sound. We call this Ujjayi Pranayama, or victorious breathing. So let your attention soften into the waves of your inhale and exhale. We're going to use the sound of your own breath to pace our gentle movements. So now just start to bend your knees, step your feet onto that pillow if you have one underneath your knees. And then go ahead and slide the pillow off of your mat so that you're able to extend your legs on the floor in a moment. Bend your knees into your chest, catching hold of them with your hands. And then begin to inhale, rotate your thighs apart. Fully exhale, rotate your thighs together. And just like that, continue for a few more. Inhale apart. Exhale together. Following at your pace of breath, as you begin to warm up into your groins, your inner thighs, your glutes, and your lower back. Now let's switch directions. Inhale, draw your thighs together, reversing, exhale apart. Several more rounds. And notice as you're moving your legs, that your shoulders are stationary, grounded, skull is supported by the earth or a pillow. Your jaw and your facial muscles are relaxed. Then set your feet on the ground. We're going to warm our hamstrings here. If you have a yoga block, one block, take the skinniest width and hug it right in between your thighs. And this will help us space our thighs as well as our feet apart. Parallel your feet as wide apart as your thighs. Then bring your arms down by your sides, close to your rib cage, locating your feet by walking them back, just enough where you could almost touch your heels with your fingertips, but not quite, just almost. Now grounding the backs of your shoulders, tilt your chin slightly away from your chest. And we're going to slowly move in and out of bridge pose 5 times. Really slow with the breath. So as you press your feet into the earth, keep your arms by your sides. Inhale, begin to tilt your tailbone up towards the block, peeling your pelvis off the ground, lifting your mid-back, lifting your chest, lengthen the fronts of your thighs forward, and then exhale, slowly lower your upper back, mid-back, tailbone last. And just like that, at your pace of breath when you're ready. Press down with your feet and shoulders. Inhale, tilt your tailbone up, and let the rest of your spine follow the lift. Broadening your chest. And when you exhale, articulate the release of each vertebra from upper back to tailbone. And as you listen to your breath, take another 3 cycles here of moving Setu Bandha Sarvangasana, bridge pose. So as you're hugging the block to keep your thighs parallel, we're using that to traction and support the length of your lower spine. When you lift your pelvis, activate your hamstrings by imagining that you're dragging your heels towards your glutes. Don't actually move your feet. As you stretch the fronts of your thighs forward. Remember that this posture helps to open the front of your body, including expanding your lungs. Really use full breath. We're also using it to warm up hamstrings and fronts of the hips. And then from here, set your block aside. Separate your feet on the ground wider than your hips distance. And we're going to move a little more. So let your arms splay out to the sides or like a cactus shape, just so they're out of the way of your legs. And on your next in-breath, slowly drop your thighs both to the right so the knees are apart as you drop them, as wide apart as your feet are. And as you exhale, lifting your knees, slowly drop them to the left. Just like windshield wipers moving in the same direction, but keeping your feet on the floor. Inhale to the right. Really sustaining your breath here. Exhale to the left. Slow motion. Take about 3 more rounds, 3 on each side. Inhaling. And exhaling. As you might already feel here, we're self-massaging your glutes. If you tend to hike, walk, or run uphill, that area can get quite tight. So finish the cycle of breath and movement that you're on. Beautiful, and then here, we'll drop the thighs both to the right and stay. So as you, or do please, point your left knee to trace the midline of your mat forward. You may need to scoot your left heel out to the left edge of your mat a bit more. And then just notice what you're feeling in your body here, especially in the area of your left side of your pelvis, front of the hip, left side of the lower back. And if there's not quite that much sensation yet, you explore crossing your right ankle on top of your left thigh, just above your left knee. And if you feel that your right knee is tender to do that, you could flex your right foot as you do this, just to help stabilize your knee. Now notice what you feel. Breathe in. Breathe out. You might also explore raising your arms overhead, helping to lengthen both sides of your torso. And with that, you could bend your elbows and catch hold of opposite elbows while draping your arms towards the ground. Now continue to relax your shoulders down your back, allowing space throughout your neck. Well, let's take about 10 deep breaths here. So now wherever you might feel more sensation in your body, if so, I invite you to visualize breathing into that particular area, as though you were filling up a balloon with air. And then as you exhale, can you allow any muscles in that area to soften, to relax, and the bones to fall a little heavily, a little more heavily. So a feeling of surrender, of letting go of efforts. Remembering your positive affirmation, this might be a good time to repeat it mentally or out loud to the cadence of your breath. Inhale, I am. Exhale, your chosen quality. Remember that words have energy. They have power, especially when we fuel those words with an emotion, with a feeling state. In Sanskrit, we call that bhavanam. So using the words to cultivate particular bhavanam, feeling state. Now, finishing off about 3 more deep breaths. Trace your exhale to the very bottom. And when you finish, if your legs are crossed, slowly uncross them. Lift your knees. Set your 2 feet on the ground again, wider than hips distance apart. Separate your knees as wide apart as your feet. And then just pause here in the middle for a moment. You may want to gently rock left hip, right hip, side to side. Just softly shifting your weight for a gentle lower back massage. Then as you're ready, drop your thighs both to the left, pointing your right knee down the midline of your mat, adjusting your right foot as needed. And just observe any feeling in the right part of your pelvis, lower back, thigh. This may be plenty just right here. Or you might choose to explore the feeling of crossing left ankle over right thigh just above your right knee. If your left knee feels tender as you do that, you could flex your left foot. And then you might also add raising your arms overhead, lengthening the space from armpits to outer hips. You might also switch the cross of your elbow on top, catching hold of them as you relax your arms and draw your shoulder blades down your back ribs. Feel your lungs and belly receive this breath. And listen to that soft whisper as you exhale through your nose. Got about 10 more cycles, deep breaths. Notice, is there any part of your body speaking a little louder through heightened sensation or changing sensation? Perhaps shine the spotlight of your attention by imagining breathing into that part. With the exhales, softening that area of your body. And again, perhaps chanting your affirmation. Finding a genuine feeling of what those words mean to you. Finish about 3 more long breaths. Tracing your exhalation to the very bottom. When you're done, slowly lift your knees, uncross the legs if they're crossed. And this time, again, set your feet on the ground. You may want to shift your weight side to side from one hip to another. Just a gentle rocking across the lower back of the pelvis. Let's take a few deep exhales through the mouth, letting out any sound if you like. Inhale deeply, whole body breath in. Ah. 2 more. Whew. Now turn over to one side, slowly press the ground with your hands, gently lift your torso upright to sit. And as you come to sit with your legs extended in front of you, you may want to grab a pillow or a folded blanket to sit on. Hello. Extending your left leg forward to start. Bend your right knee to over the left thigh, so that you can hug your thighs as close together as possible. And right here, you can keep your bottom leg extended, flexing the foot for added stability to sit upright. Or explore bending your bottom knee too and splaying your feet wider apart. Just make sure that your 2 sitting bones, left and right, are balanced and anchored. Spine is tall, the shoulders are relaxed. And then we'll bend the elbows apart here, taking the left elbow and crossing it over the right elbow, where you could either give yourself a tight hug, splaying your shoulder blades apart, or hook your thumbs, or wrap your forearms and palms. And if any of the latter 2 versions Send your shoulders down, lift up through the center of your spine. Lift your elbows to the height of your shoulders and gently press your forearms away from your face. So you feel that area right between your shoulder blades. You might close your eyes and picture breathing into it, expanding into that area between the shoulder blades where often muscle knots, tension knots can arise. With your exhales, you might imagine sweeping away any debris of knots that might be within the inner scapula. Now let your belly slightly firm in to support the length of your lower mid-spine. And with that, as you keep your hips grounded, you might start to bow from your hips, trying to maintain a feeling of a flat back. Throat open, deep breaths. So about 10 full cycles of breath here. In this posture of Garudasana, or eagle pose in your arms, mixed with Gomukhasana, or cow face pose in your legs. As you might feel, this physical posture targets the area of your glutes, outer hips, outer thighs, and lower back, as well as your shoulders, upper back, latissimus dorsi, it's the side upper ribs area, and even the trapezius muscle along the sides of your neck and tops of your shoulders. And anytime you just need to tune back in and back to that feeling tone that you're cultivating through your chosen positive affirmation, I am fill in the blank. As we've been talking about this second so-called mind trap, the inner critic or negative self-talk, it's very common. If you catch it throwing thoughts at you here, I invite you to bring a lightheartedness to your catching it. Smile within or smile outwardly. And redirect your attention to your positive affirmation. Let's finish this breath here. And as you firm your belly, root your sitting bones, inhale, begin to lift your chest and the rest of your spine. Backstroke your arms, place your fingertips alongside your hips, extend your legs forward. And then just start to shake out your legs anyway. You could even use your fist to gently tap your outer thighs. A little self-massage here into your IT band. So as I mentioned at the start, these are some of my favorite postures after a long run or hike, especially on hilly trails. The IT band could use some loosening up after that. All right. Set up for side 2, crossing left thigh as I'm mirroring you over right thigh, either keeping the bottom leg straight and the foot flexed for groundedness, or bending the bottom knee and splaying the feet wider apart if possible. Feel your 2 sitting bones. You might the flesh aside with your hands, and then lift up your entire spine. Roll the shoulders back and down, then bend your elbows apart. Cross your right elbow over the left, hugging yourself tightly, hooking your thumbs, or wrapping your forearms and palms. If the latter 2 versions, slide your shoulder blades down, lift your elbows to the height of your shoulders, And gently press your forearms forward, away from your face. And take a few breaths of lifting up a little taller, as though you could restack each vertebra of your spine from the bottom up and to your crown. Keeping that length, that spaciousness, gently press the belly inward towards your back. And you might start to fold from your hips, feeling your pelvis rooted, throat open, about 10 full breaths. So besides the physical target areas of this posture, as you might feel, cultivates introspection, literally folding into yourself. And as I mentioned at the start, knowing about these common mind traps or negative feedback loops, mental habits, can cultivate awareness through the practice of svadhyaya, which means self-study. Talked about that way in the second limb of yoga. Knowing when such thought patterns arise, whether you're in meditation or in day-to-day tasks, we can bring to the surface what might be just beneath the surface of our consciousness. And choose our perceptions of the world more consciously, more intentionally. Let's finish 2 more breaths here. And as you press your pelvis down, press your belly towards your back, begin to lift your chest on a slow inhale, rising up to sit. Backstroke your arms, uncross your legs. And this time, let's rotate your feet and your hands. Kind of like rubbing your belly and tapping your head. Go in any direction. Just loosening up your ankles and your wrists. Stretching into your forearms and calves. Point and flex your feet. So this next posture, we won't be in it too long. It can feel quite intense. You may want to grab your blanket if you have tight Achilles tendons or calves. And the thicker the fold of the blanket, the more support for tighter Achilles tendons and calves. So first I'll do it with a blanket and then I'll do it without. It's basically a squat. And you place your heels on top of the edge of that blanket. And then you let your pelvis drop. You can turn out your legs a bit, turn out your feet a bit. Just make sure that the middle of your knees, the middle toes, are pointing in the same direction. Now we can stay right here and it's more of a hip opener. But what I like to do after a run is to get into the calves by bringing the feet as close together as possible, like you're making a cannonball, and planting your fingertips in front of you. They could be on blocks or the floor, and then just letting the pelvis sink back as though you're about to sit on the ground, but your fingertips are keeping your pelvis hovering. You can drop your chin towards your chest here if you like, just adding a little more opening in the upper back too. Let's just take about 3 to 5 more breaths. You could stay longer if you like. As your pelvis is sinking, can you lift the lower vertebrae up away from the pelvis? Begin to grow the back of your neck, lifting the chin from the chest if it's dropped. And then take a deep breath wide across your collarbones. Lift your sternum a bit. And then exhale, rock forward onto your shins. And we're going to tuck the toes here, or keep them tucked, as we stretch into the soles of your feet. And you might feel it, Achilles tendons, the backs of your ankles. So the more you lean forward, and you can place your hands on props if you like, the less intense as you might feel already. And the more you lean back and the more upright you are, the more intense it can get. So just find your degree that you can sustain for about 7 breaths. And if you are leaning back, you could also open up your chest by interlacing your fingers, seeing if you can hug the heels of your palms together, and drawing your shoulder blades now together and down your back, opening your chest. Be sure not to puff out your front ribs here, but to seal in the bottom of your front ribs as though they were melting down towards your pubic bone, even as you coil your chest up and begin to look up. Feel the length in the back of your neck. Let your tailbone anchor downward rather than tilting further back. And we're down to 2 or 3 more breaths. Now, if you really want to get deep into your calves, another time you could get a foam roller or a rolling pin for baking and place it right at the meat of your calves and then sit back. Whew, that can get pretty intense. We won't do that today though. So let's untuck the toes, or at least not now. And come forward onto hands and knees. Release the tops of your feet down. And you may want to just tap them on the ground. Get some blood flow into your feet. A little reflexology. Take a deep inhale, lion's breath. Stick out your tongue. Open your mouth and eyes wide. Maybe cross your eyes. Let it go. 2 more lion's breaths. Inhale. Last time. Breathe in. Okay, let's relax the tops of the feet. And for now, leaning back, if your knees are resistant to you sitting all the way down to your calves, you could use a blanket. Place that folded edge right up against the backs of your knees. And the thicker it is, the more you're supporting your knees and not bending them so much. So up to you. And then from here, you can use one hand at a time to lift one knee at a time, stretching into the opposite side of your ankle and the top of your foot. Or if it feels okay to do both at the same time, make yourself a rocking chair and plant your hands behind you and lean back to the degree that you can hold. So if you're doing one at a time, take 5 slow breaths and then switch legs. Otherwise, it's 10 full breaths here. Shoulders down the back, heart space wide open. Feel the full length of your spine, back of the neck. Noticing what thoughts pass by, and again, treating your thoughts as simply mental events. Remembering that you don't have to believe every thought that comes up. About 3 more breaths. And slowly release your knees onto the floor. Now, for the next posture of opening the inner thighs, groins, more glutes, I'm going to take you into frog pose. But if you prefer to take Baddha Konasana, bound angle, here's that variation. Bringing the soles of your feet together, bending your knees apart, and then folding here. You could put blocks to rest your forehead on or a big pillow to hug. Another variation in place of full-on frog pose is a wide thigh spread of child pose. So having the knees wide, keeping your pelvis on your feet are together touching. And then here you could straddle a big pillow as well, or just extend your torso completely on the ground forward. Now for frog pose, you can start like this. And if you need, use your blanket to make a thicker cushion for your inner knees. And then you'll splay your feet apart, making sure you're turning out your legs from your hip sockets. Really important. Bend your knees at 90-degree angles so they both look like L's, capital L's. And the feet are turned out so they're facing the same direction as your knees are. And then your pelvis is in line with your knees, not forward or behind. Here, you can come down forearms or place your hands on pillows or blocks, whatever props you may need. And breathe. Just breathe. I'm going to watch the clock here for a full minute and a half. So whatever variation you're in, find the degree in which you can sustain stillness, deep breaths, and perhaps mentally or out loud repeating your positive affirmation. Know how interesting, I didn't know that this chant was going to come up. This is the Sanskrit chant that means, basically it's a prayer or a calling forth within oneself to bring whatever is in the unconscious, whatever is dwelling beneath the surface of our awareness, into our awareness. It's coming from darkness to light. It also talks about moving from mortality to immortality. So you can think of that as recognizing what is constant about you, beyond the physical body, beyond the thoughts, beyond the impermanent emotions. It's remembering who we are at the root, who you are at the root. All right, we've got 10 more seconds. Keep breathing deeply. Now, if you are in frog pose, we're gonna continue to face the direction you're facing and just begin to slide your feet together, slide your pelvis towards your feet, arriving in child's pose with your thighs wider than usual apart. If you've already been in that posture, you can start to roll your spine upright so that you're sitting, and if you're in bound angle pose, do the same and to sit upright. And just pause for a few breaths in a more neutral position, observing how your body has reacted or responded, and anything else that came up. If you're in child's pose, begin to roll your spine upright. Extend your legs in front of you. We're going to set it for a seated forward fold with the legs straight forward. You may want to use a strap around the balls of your feet so that it gives you a little more ability to relax the shoulders and still find your range of your forward folds. Yeah, let's start here. So flex your feet, separate your feet hips distance, spread your toes, and press your big toe mounds forward so that your inner thighs slightly spin downward without pigeon toeing your feet. It's more of your thigh bones rotating from the hip sockets. Then hug your outer hips towards your midline. Draw your sitting bones down and lift your spine from your pelvis without your tractioning your lower back. More support for your sacrum. Take a deep breath, open your chest, release your shoulders back and down, and then keeping your throat open, your back sort of flat, begin to hinge from your hips just a little bit. And as you breathe in, pause, press downward to your legs and sitting bones, and lift upward and forward to your spine. And as you breathe out, hug your belly in, hinge forward another little bit if you can, and then continue on to find your own range, a total of about 10 deep breaths. Paschimottanasana. If you like, you can put a block right underneath your forehead. You can clasp your big toes and flare your bent elbows apart. Just make sure that you're keeping that length of your spine, not beginning to round the shoulders or close off your throat. And in this posture, you might visualize breathing into your entire back body, from the backs of your heels, your calves, your hamstrings, your glutes, your lower back, mid back, upper back, all the way up to the back of your skull. Finishing this deep breath. On your next inhalation, keep your belly slightly firm. Start lifting your chest and the rest of your spine like a flat back. Let's set up for a restorative posture in Shavasana, unless you choose to completely lie on your back. That restorative posture is a gentle way of opening your chest, since we didn't quite do any back bends or heart openers that we've held for periods of time. So you can either use your pillow tracing the midline of your mat, sit with your pelvis a few inches away from the pillow. You can decide by lying back and just feeling how that pillow is supporting a lift of your chest, but not compressing the lower back. So find how much space your pelvis needs to be away from the pillow or closer to the pillow so that you're accentuating the openness in your chest. You can bend your elbows apart so your arms are shaped like a cactus, landing the backs of your hands on the floor. Some of you might want a little more lift in the chest using 2 blocks. Placing one block across your mat on its medium height and placing the second block either the same way, parallel to it, or lowest height for even more lift in the chest. And in this version, pelvis stays on the ground. The area right under your shoulder blades lands on the block that's closer to you. Shoulders drape down into the space between the blocks, and the back of your head lands on the further block or on the floor. Legs can be splayed out, knees could be bent, dropped together, feet apart. Find a variation of your legs that feels most restful for you. You can be still in for corpse pose. for Shavasana. Make any final little adjustments so that your body feels pretty symmetrical on left and right sides. Your neck and your jaw can relax completely. Closing your eyes, take a deep, full body breath in, imagining from head to toe you're filling up with that breath. Hold it at the top, maybe try to sip in a little more air. And then to your mouth, cleansing exhalation. All the way out, and with that, letting go of controlling your breath. Let your eyes close, yourself drop in into the feeling tone of that positive affirmation. As you continue to lie still in Shavasana, I'm going to guide you through a brief meditation to end this practice with. A body scan. So as you continue to close your eyes, bring your inner gaze to the bottom of your feet. Just feeling them completely relaxed, toes soft, ankles loose. Lifting your inner gaze up through your shin bones, feel your ankles relax too. Noticing the weight of your left and right knees. As you soften both inner thighs, as you relax both outer thighs, letting your glutes unwind as you feel the weight of your pelvis, both left and right hips. And feel your belly relax too. Perhaps it's subtly moving to the natural flow of your breath. Notice from your lower spine, slowly crawling your gaze up. The muscles surrounding your spine throughout your torso. Letting go of any efforts. As your body feels fully supported here. Bring your attention to your shoulder girdle. Cross your chest. Feel the width of your collarbones. and the gentle weight of your left and right shoulder heads. Send your attention down each arm, left arm, all the way down to the elbow. Feel the weight of the wrist as you soften your left fingertips and relax your left palm. Bring your attention down your right arm, feeling the weight of your right elbow. The forearm, soft. The right palm and fingertips, soft. Now land your attention at your throat as you feel all around your neck, its natural curve, spaciousness, as your jaw relaxes unclenched. Feel the effect of your scalp relaxing too. A wave of softness coming down your face, softening corners of your eyes, softening your cheeks, softening your tongue. Now, as you continue to just let your breath flow naturally, I invite you to visualize the inhales like a blanket of softness, very thin, just gently stroking your body from head to toe. And the exhales, feeling again all that is supporting your body from below. Inhales, wave of softness all throughout your body. Exhales, grounding you. Now, as we begin, where we culminate this practice, I invite you to bring back that seed of thoughts, that positive affirmation you've designed for yourself in today's practice that begins with I am. And as you repeat that a few more times mentally or whispering out loud, can you allow the feeling of it to affect your breath quality? Can you allow the feeling to pervade your posture and how your body is resting here structurally? Can you even bring the feeling into your facial expression now? Remembering that you have the power to choose which seeds of thoughts to water and grow. Rest here longer if you like. Otherwise, ending the practice together, you can stay lying down or gently begin to sit up to you. I invite you to place your palms at your heart center. And from a genuine space of that feeling tone you've cultivated, let's close with one chant of Om. Take a deep breath. The light in me bows to the light in you. Namaste.